from the left side of things. Happy New Year! Technically, almost. We're almost there. Listen, this is the last show of the year. It was the last work day for me of the year. Yay! Off tomorrow. Gonna enjoy it. And 2021 is coming to an end. We made it through, y'all. We made it. Some of us didn't. And, you know, I'm pouring a little bit out for those that didn't make it. But we're still here. Turn left is still here. Going into another year. 2022 election season is here. Y'all know how excited I get. I get excited to talk to the candidates and talk about the legislation. But first and foremost, you know, the General Assembly session starts on January 4th, I do believe. So we need to start paying attention to the bills that are coming out of the State House that are going to impact all of us. So first, I want to talk about something that, you know, it's kind of hard not to talk about. We've been talking about it for 2 years, and that is COVID. But I think there's some information that we ought to share with our people. You know, when we hear, you know, last week I talked about how Todd Rokita got on and said all of these things about our numbers are not true, and he doesn't believe them. And of course, you know, Governor Holcomb today said he was, you know, blindsided. He was stunned and somewhat blindsided, as the AP reported. And he said that to me hit home. It's quite serious when you accuse or insinuate anyone of inflating numbers. In my book, that's called fraud. If there is a shred of evidence, he or others need to take it to the Inspector General of the state of Indiana. So basically, what he's saying is, dog, if you think I'm lying, come with it. Come with it. If you think I'm not telling the truth, or our state agencies are not telling the truth, AG Todd Rokita, bring it. Now, of course, AG tried to rebut it, but it wasn't a very good rebuttal. His argument wasn't good. In fact, it was so bad I'm not even going to read it. But what I am going to talk about is the editorial from the Journal Gazette that I read yesterday. There is no way to sugarcoat the statistics. COVID-19 now ranks behind only heart disease and cancer as the leading cause of death in the U.S., according to the CDC. As of Wednesday morning, the number of confirmed cases of COVID-19 hit 53.169 million nationally, and the death toll was 819,201. A new comparison of the 50 states and the District of Columbus across 5 key metrics found Indiana, the Hoosier state, near the bottom in all the categories. Now, you know me, I've been talking about this since 2016. We always are at the bottom statistically of the categories that matter. But let me read these to you. We are 48th in the nation in vaccination rate. We are 49th in positive testing rate. We are 46th in hospitalization rate, 45th in death rate, and 31st in transmission rate. I'm gonna go back to that third one I read. 46th in the nation in hospitalization rate. That just slaps Todd Rokita in the head, don't you think? In what he was saying? And the report goes on to say, when averaged and put on a 100-point scale, a Wallet Hub analysis found Indiana to be the least safest state in the country as a result of the pandemic. So Todd Rokita don't have to believe the numbers. He don't have to. But he can keep lying to his people, and he can keep telling them that it's not true, the numbers ain't right. We are 46th in the nation in hospitalization rate. So when Methodist Hospital got 20 people from the U.S. Navy to come help them this week, it's not because what Todd Rokita said. It's because we are 48th in the nation in vaccination rate, 49th in the nation in positive testing. That's why the hospitals are filling up. But he don't want to talk about that. He don't want to talk about that because you still got these knuckleheads out here wanting to, you know, they don't want to get vaccinated, nor do they want to wear a mask. As of Wednesday morning, the Hoosier state had reported 1.23 million confirmed COVID cases and 18,930 deaths. Even closer to home, and this is out of the Journal Gazette, Allen County, and I don't have the numbers for Marion County, but Allen County has had a minimum of 73,900 278 COVID cases and 984 deaths. That's just in Allen County. I imagine it's much, much, much higher in Marion County. Y'all, this thing is real. I know people don't want to talk about it. They want to pretend like it's not. They don't want to get the vaccine. They don't want to do this. They don't want to do that. But people are dying. And we're stressing our healthcare system, which already sucked. We already knew it sucked. We already knew it was bad. This COVID just put a strain on everything. And when you have people in elected positions who could be writing policy, making claims. And as Governor Holcomb said, he believes it's just attempting to fan the flames of confusion, and that's exactly what we don't need at this time. Y'all know I'm not a big old Holcomb fan. I'm not a fan of Holcomb. But where's the lie? Where is the lie? He is actually looking out for people versus trying to, in this instance, because now let's be clear, it ain't like he had a press conference. He's been missing in action for a couple months now. So it's not like he, at the top of his game. And if he was at the top of his game, then our numbers wouldn't be so pitiful at the bottom. So no, I'm not going to make it seem like he's a hero. But he's right about this. He's right about this. So, time for you to shut up. And people, be safe. Take care of yourself and take care of your neighbor. Because that's what getting the vaccine and wearing a mask does, is take care of your neighbor. Now, the AP also reports commotion in some school districts over topics ranging from COVID-19 mask mandates to teaching about racial injustice has Indiana Republican lawmakers looking at steps they argue will give parents more sway over what happens in classrooms. So, y'all know in other states they have banned critical race theory, which they're not teaching that college level course, that law school level course in K through 12. We know this, but they banned it anyway. And some states, they're banning certain words that you can't actually say in the classroom, because banning words is always good in school, right? Banning words, it's always a good thing. But in our state, it looks like the leaders might be kind of like not going all the way there, right? Republican lawmakers in other states are pushing legislation to ban the teaching of critical race theory, which has become a catch-all term for efforts to teach that systematic racism remains a persistent problem in the U.S. Indiana legislative leaders don't appear to be ready to go that far. Republican House Speaker Todd Houston said he expects a bill ensuring that parents have more insight and input into the curriculum materials and surveys being used in school. Now, I guess I'm good with parents having a say in what the kids are being learned, what they're learning. But what if a parent is an actual high school dropout themselves? They don't actually have a full breadth of educational knowledge. How much say do you really want them to have in your education system? I mean, that's a real question. I'm not saying that they shouldn't be concerned about what their kids are learning, but if your knowledge base is limited, how much input should you actually have? The other side of that is, what if I believe as a parent that we should be teaching critical race theory? Do I get a say? Does my opinion matter? Or is it only some parents that are going to get a say and it's going to matter? So y'all, just be careful. And I'm going to, Senator Bray said something I thought was interesting. He said, if you go out amongst the schools in the state of Indiana, the definition is really, really nebulous and difficult to pin down. So you'd have to speak to what it is exactly that you're trying to stop rather than just using the word critical race theory. I think that is significant because he is saying, no, we're not going to use CRT as a catch-all for everything to ban things. And so I'm going to hold him to it. That's this pro tem in the Senate and the House Speaker in the Republican supermajority, I imagine trying to rein in their far-right ridiculousness that's coming from the other side. I'm just gonna say it like that. Maybe that's what they're trying to do. Like, yo, let's put a lid on this, because some of this stuff that they were doing over the last couple of sessions have gotten out of hand. So, we'll see, but keep your eyes out because they're going to be trying to make school boards partisan. They're going to be trying to do all kind of stuff. The nuts going to always show up. They can't help themselves. And they're going to try to pass legislation that says, some curriculum, some parents and what they want in school is fine, but other parents is not fine. So please understand that, because if you're working hard to say that you can't teach that race and racism has gone about, a lot of the tools that we have in place have racist undertones, like assimilation schools. Ask the Native Americans about that. That was a policy. Then that means you're going to do everything you can to keep the real truth and somebody else's real truth out. So y'all keep an eye on that. Last thing I want to hit on, and I want to get to my guests. I want you guys to pay close attention to Senate Bill. This is going to be introduced in the next session. Senate Bill 143. I want you to pay attention to this. It's very simple. It's authored by Senator Scott Baldwin, Senator Michael Young, and Senator Chris Garton. I think that's how you pronounce his name. My apologies. It's self-defense. It specifies that reasonable force includes the pointing of a loaded or unloaded firearm for the purpose of self-defense and arrest statutes. I don't even know how far to take that. I know for a fact that when I was in ROTC, they always told us, you don't point your gun unless you plan on shooting it. Whatever you plan on shooting, point your gun at. And if you tell them that they can point an unloaded gun at somebody as a deterrent, and then they get their behind whipped because they had an unloaded gun, what's going to happen after that? See, they obviously didn't think that one sentence through very well. It's pretty bad. All right, that's my rant. I know that's a lot, but listen, it's that time of year. You're going to be seeing a lot of legislation. It's going to be called into committees. It's going to be called to the floors to the vote. You guys need to know what's going on. Divide and conquer. There's going to be too many pieces of legislation for everybody to decipher all by themselves. So get a team together. Find the topics that you guys are most concerned about. Divide those bills up. Make sure that you know what they're saying and get involved. Stay involved because these policies, these bills will impact you directly. All right. So, y'all, I'm excited about my guest tonight because y'all know me. I very seldom mention who we as Democrats are running against. But I want y'all to know who this man, and now mind you, it's primary season, but I want you to understand who this man wants to face off against in the General Assembly. This is my friend Chad Harmon. He is running in House District 69. Who is the Republican sitting in 69? Jim Lucas. Jim Lucas. That's all we're going to say his name. But that's why it's important to get to know who Chad is, because we're going to need to unseat that knucklehead, the dude that puts the stocking on his head. Come on now. Chad, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
It's wonderful to have you. How you doing?
I'm all right. Well, I've been sick, but not with the COVID, so that's all right. So.
Well, that's good. As long as it wasn't COVID. We don't want you to have, and please take care of yourself because it's rough out here. I know that everything is getting started now, but tell the people who you are and where you come from.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, I'm Chad Harmon. Obviously, I'm a small town boy. Came from Brazil, Indiana. Small town, about 5,000 people. I was an only child of a middle-class family. I'm kind of a product of the system, basically. I did what they told me to do. I got good grades, and the good grades let me go to school. I played some tennis.
Whoa! Time out.
Yeah.
You're a tennis fan, are you?
I'm a tennis player fan. Yeah.
That's like in my top 3 sports. I have you the first politician that's come on that's talked about tennis. I fell in love with tennis like around 81, 82, and Chris Everett and Martina Navratilova were going at.
Yeah, Yvonne Lindell and
Jimmy Connors.
Yeah, Boris
Becker. Come on, John Mack. Come on, Johnny Mack. I mean, that was a pretty hot period of tennis.
Yeah, that was fun.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, right. So I played that. I played tennis for 4 years, varsity. But I got the grades. The scholarship basically got me through into college. I went to Indiana State and then Indiana Wesleyan. Got a bachelor's in business management, and then I decided to get a master's in engineering from Purdue. Basically, I've moved a couple times. Went out west for a while, went up north, but there's like this gravitational pull for me back to my home area, things kind of fell into place where I ended up in Seymour, and I just see this guy out here. People are suffering, like legit suffering. They can't, pay for things, and they don't have good health care. People are dying from COVID. I mean, opioid addiction. I mean, mental health. All these things are happening, and this dude's out here putting, a stocking on his face, and making these, spending his time making memes, and it's just, it's very, very ridiculous and very funny that it's that way, but it's also like super sad that that's what he's doing. I just kind of decided that, I was, looking at the District 9 run, but we've got some good candidates in there already, and I just felt that it would be better for everybody if somebody tried to take that guy out. So that's what I'm doing.
Well, you know what, and I really appreciate that because, taking on incumbents, especially in tough districts, is not an easy task. And what I want to say thank you for taking it on, because some people don't have the wherewithal to say, well, you know what, I'm going to give it my best shot because everybody should have a choice. I understand that you were thinking about the 9th district, but when you look at running in 69, what are you seeing in that community that said, you know what, he's really not addressing any of those needs?
Yeah, I mean, he's, the only bills he's come up with are basically against safety. Like he's, kind of like guns. Obviously, he's always talking about guns, and then he wants to get rid of the mask mandate or any mask mandate, and he's not. There's a bunch of people in that district that are, like I mentioned, addiction is a big issue in that district, and we need some mental health services in the rural areas, and he's just worried about making sure that the NRA is happy, I guess. I'm not sure. Some of these bills, I don't even know what the goal is. You know what I mean? Like, he wants to get rid of permits for guns and get rid of gun-free zones, and nobody is sitting at home right now in this time period in the pandemic saying, I just wish I could take my gun to church. You know what I mean? Like, why is that the focus of his?
I mean, it seems like if you're going to church, you should be armed with the Holy Ghost. That's all you need.
That's right. Yeah.
That's all you need. So, running for office is not an easy decision. So, what in your life or what has happened that made you say, I want to run for office, other than the issues? But what was it inside of you that said, I want to run for office?
Really, honestly, it's, a daily trip of seeing people dying on my Facebook. And it's friends of friends, overdoses, people committing suicide. And nobody especially in the rural areas. Like there's, you could go to Indianapolis or Bloomington or whatever and get some help, but out here there's just there's not a lot of places to go. I just I keep coming back to this, but I just felt like even I don't even think Republicans are being represented. Like nobody is actually being represented. It's just this some dude up there just being a troll basically.
That's deep. I mean, because that's exactly what he's being, is a troll. He's, and unfortunately, he's been able to get away with it because of the way gerrymandering is and how these districts are drawn.
Yeah, exactly. I was just looking at the numbers yesterday, and like in 2010, it was 52%. 52 seats went to Democrats. Yeah, and like in 10 years or whatever, now it's 71 to 29. It's crazy. We always win more of the vote, but we get less of the seats, and it's just gerrymandering is I always have to contain my rage when it comes to that topic. So
yeah, I mean, because you would think, like, I know when I'm talking to intellectuals, they appreciate having a different opinion and formulating ideas and thoughts and coming to solutions and conclusions. They don't want everything to all be the same, but it looks like in Indiana they like really just keeping it all one thought, only doing things one way, and look what it gets us. Look, it's not even like we're doing well with it.
Right. Yeah, we're near last and everything. Yeah.
I mean, it's not even a good thing, right? And you would think somebody would want to shake this up. I mean, we have a crazy brain drain. I mean, there's nothing successful about this other than, oh, I'm sorry, hold on, wait. We have a AAA credit rating.
Yay.
Because that is going to feed kids, right? That's going to get us health care.
Exactly.
You know, and running for office is always difficult. And as you've gone through and thought about, you know, your platform, let's talk about the three things or the things that you have high on your list on your platform. What is the three items that you want to address?
You know, I keep talking about it, but, you know, addiction, opioid addiction. I really want to get rehab centers and you know, resources for people out in the rural areas, and especially in, you know, obviously in my district. I want to have people the ability to not have to, you know, there's people that are homeless and don't have transportation and, you know, are dealing with mental health issues. And, you know, somebody reached out to me a couple of days ago, and the guy that was homeless, schizophrenic, and drug addicted without ID. I'm like, where's a guy like that, you know, going to go? You know what I mean? There's nowhere. And so, you know, I had to call around and finally find a place for him to go. But it took, you know, way more effort than it should. And, you know, there's a lot of people out here that are, I think, dying without even knowing that there is a possibility they could get help. You know what I mean? So, you know, I just want to, you know, bring that to the community.
I'm glad you bring that up because, you know, the opioid addiction, the opioid crisis here in Indiana has not really, we haven't solved it. We just don't talk about it as much as we used to anymore. You know, they feel like the stupid company that had to make the payout, but people are still dying and suffering, and we are not addressing. And you're talking about in rural Indiana, which is honestly, they're better represented in the state house than the more populated areas.
Right.
So what else? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, like I said, also just kind of rebuilding the communities after COVID is another big, you know, small business, investing in small businesses. There's just so many businesses that are closed, you know, that are or temporarily closed and not coming back. We need to get resources back to them and work on rebuilding the communities after the pandemic. I think is a big issue for me.
I like the way you tie small business back into the community because a lot of people think that small businesses are separate from the community, but they are huge community builders. What made you kind of look? What made you think of it like that? Have you been a small business owner or somebody you know?
Actually, you know, just some people that I know have closed their restaurants, and they're up in Indy, up in Broadville area. But you know, it's just they couldn't make it because they just didn't have the resources available. So,
how would you help them? What kind of ideas do you have to help them maybe get some of those resources? Because as a legislator, you know, you would have to write something, but you know, how would you help them? What are your thoughts on that, actually?
My biggest thought really is like no interest loans, stuff like that. You know, where you know just pump some money in there and try to help them, and you know we've got a surplus of money anyway. We got more money than we can apparently know what to do with, or we know what to do with it and we're not doing it. You know, so you know get that money out there into the and people kind of encourage some entrepreneurship. You know, get ideas, and you know I don't think that anybody that has an idea right now thinks it's a good time to open a small business, right? So nobody's doing it. So you know, there's tons of good ideas out there, and nobody's taking advantage of it because it's too risky. And you know, we need a opportunity for them to be able to get that out in the community and get the ideas out and get people working. And I mean, it just spurs the whole economy. So
I think you're right because I think the lifeblood of a community, like you know, the restaurant now again in Indianapolis is. There's still pockets of neighborhoods, and certain neighborhoods thrive on whatever restaurant or whatever small business is there. I imagine in smaller towns where you know you have populations under 5,000 people, you know those are lifebloods for those communities.
Yeah, I mean, it's people work there, people know the owners, and they they go there for their whatever they're selling. I mean, it's a constant money in, money out. Plus those small businesses are using other small businesses in the area for their resources, materials or whatever they're using. So,
Yeah.
they use use a local butcher for their steaks, and I mean, it's all tied together. So,
Yeah, and especially since a lot of our rural counties, I think over 40, are having a net negative in population growth, meaning
yeah,
people are leaving those locations. So if you don't have something that's building and sustaining it, of course people are going to leave.
yeah. It's there's nothing keeping them there, and they got to go where the jobs are. So,
Absolutely. That's
yeah,
why people get mad. But then what happens is you have less and less people being represented in the state house because now Indianapolis, Fort Wayne, Evansville, they carve all that up and put those cities into those rural communities. They couldn't really. They tried. They tried to get my man Carson, but they
yeah.
they didn't. They didn't. So what's
They didn't again.
they didn't. So what's that third thing that you want to talk about?
I think kind of workforce development, basically, getting investing in education for people that I think that they're high school education isn't enough anymore. Either trade schools, vocational schools, stuff like that, scholarships, grants, things like that. More, we got to get people educated so they can do the jobs that we can actually compete against other countries and other states, I guess you could say. So.
Absolutely, because again, we have a brain drain. We have people, even the ones that do get an education, they don't want to stay here, and we
Yeah.
have jobs that we can't get filled. I mean, and the one thing you talk about workforce development, I always think about the people that were at companies that closed down and like Carrier and moved to Mexico. Well, we still have to. They still have to work. They're still in their working years. I think there should be a way for us to get them some educational support so they can change careers.
Right, exactly. Even if there are resources out there that it's not very well spoken of, or it's not common knowledge, where you go to get that. And I think a more direct path to these resources.
Absolutely, and having resources in some of those more rural communities will keep the cost low as well because for the resident they're not driving an hour to a major metropolitan city.
Right, and then again with it all ties back to small businesses. If they're not driving an hour, they're using the small businesses in the town, and they're spending money here and there, instead of in Indianapolis or Bloomington or some big city where they drive off to go to work. It stays within the community.
I think
And the
that's a great
community
idea.
can grow.
I think it's a great idea. I think our party has, for a while, not done as well as we could have in our rural communities, and it's and I understand it's a numbers game, right? They feel, I get it. It's not like I'm fully unaware, but having a Democratic candidate from rural Indiana running for rural Indiana, I think is a bonus because you can then go into your community and say I'm a local boy. I'm experiencing the same things you are, and you can talk about those things in a way that I wouldn't, right?
Right. Yeah. But yeah, because like I said, I grew up middle class, and I grew up in a small town, so it's not. Most of the issues are just they're a little bit heightened because of the pandemic, but they're all the same things that we've been fighting for forever. Getting when you get sick, where do you go? When you need help, who do you call? So.
I like that. I like that you're very community focused, and it sounds like if you were to get elected, you would definitely represent your community because that's what
Yeah.
the three things you talked about are the things that you are directly seeing, and I like that. So let's look at it from a statewide perspective because if you once you're elected, yes, you are obviously going to focus in on things that are impacting your community and the people that you represent, but you're also going to be involved in legislation that is going to impact all 92 counties. We talked about healthcare a little bit, and you spoke about healthcare, mental health care, rehabilitation, things like that. How do you feel about the state of our healthcare our healthcare system from a statewide perspective?
It's the hip, or I think a lot of people are not taking advantage, but like using that wisely, I guess, not taking advantage of the system, I guess, but not being able to use that, I think, is a good. I've heard a lot of good things about that just from personal stories. But like I said, and that's all mostly in big cities, though. I mean, you got some, like, if in my hometown, if you get sick, you don't go to the hospital there, because they're not going to be able to help you. So you have to go to Indianapolis anyway if it's something serious. I think we just, again, resources in the smaller communities is what it's going to take. But I think that it's better than it was, but I think there's a lot of growth that could happen.
Absolutely. And so education obviously is one of those big topics that it's going to be front and center whenever you get into the State House. Talk about your vision on on education and how you see it.
I think that we need to pay teachers more money. We've got teachers leaving left and right, either quitting the profession altogether, or going to other states where they can make more money. I think we need to improve the quality of the education that they're getting. And there's surplus money again that could be used for that, and I think that we need to take the time to actually appoint somebody to use that money to improve the education. We can have a task force or whatever you want to call it, but somebody just like, in the engineering world, we take what we call a Six Sigma event or something like that, where you take a look at a problem and you define it, you measure it, you lay it out. Just take a look at the education system and see what needs fixed. It's like everybody just wants to kind of complain about different parts or pick and choose what they're angry about. But if we don't look at it and find out what the root cause of the issues are, we'll never get anywhere.
Yeah, well, yeah, and one of the problems that is, just glaring is the continued taking of money out of public school systems and giving that money to private, parochial, for-profit institutions. In fact, there's excuse me, there may be some legislation coming up this year in dealing with education where communities pass referendums to raise taxes for public education, and these clowns want to go and get that. I think if your community said, listen, we need more money for our public schools, all that money that they raise should go to the public schools. Why should it be divvied up to it's already being raised to make up for the loss of the money that's coming out? That's one of those things that just drives me nuts.
Yeah, I mean, and also, talking at one of the small town events, the Democrats that were having, Jennifer McCormick, I think is her name, head of education for Indiana. Some of these charter schools are like, just run out of a garage or, like the back of a taco stand. Like they actually go there to invest. They're getting all this money, and there's actually no education going on, and then all that money is coming out of the public education system. So.
Absolutely, they still haven't gotten all their money back from the online scam.
Yeah, it's just one thing after another it just feels like nobody cares. Where's the people that care about education? You know what I mean? None of these people care about the things that really matter to people.
Absolutely. And there are a lot of great ideas out there on how to educate kids, right? So, but instead of creating a whole new system of educating, why not infuse some of those ideas? Because I'm not going to say that public education is perfect. We know nothing is perfect, but why not use all those resources instead of creating a whole new school system, right? Because that's what they did. Right. Put that money in, and that way everybody can take advantage of it.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, when I was introduced myself, I'm basically, the product of the public education system, which educated me great. I mean, I went to school, and I listened to what they taught me, and I listened to the counselors and teachers, and, I did what the schools told me, and I ended up, where I'm at. So I don't think that the actual system needs fixed. It just needs more money.
Right. Well, I think there could be some tweaking along the way, but I think the way that they're allocating the money needs to be addressed. So, I mean, we can always add more money to it, but how are we allocating that money? I have a hard time with the fact, like you talked about earlier, teachers getting paid more money. I have a hard time with the fact that teachers have to spend their own money on school supplies. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I don't know if you saw that thing, I think it was in South Dakota, where they had the teachers on the hockey rink, and there was money flying everywhere, and they had to grab it. And that was just humiliating.
That was insane. I mean, nothing says we don't value you. Like, you know,
get out there and horse around and wrestle around for some dollar bill. You know, I mean, it was so demeaning, and it's just it's a perfect example, or
a microcosm of
that's what I was looking for.
Of the real issue that they got to clown around on some ice trying to pick up $1 bills when they could have just donated the money to the schools.
Yeah, I mean, alien came down and asked me explain America as it is right now. I said I would show them a video of that in South Dakota and say this is where we're at.
Yeah, we value our teachers so much. We make them, we treat them like pigs in trough.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that was horrible. That was horrible.
Yeah, and they shouldn't have to spend their own money, and they should have some time to prepare and all these things that I think that it could be a lot better.
Absolutely, and now we're asking them, because we got to get them back in. We got to get the kids back in school, right? We got to get them back in school, even though some parents don't want to get them vaccinated, and some parents don't want them to wear masks. We don't care about that. We don't care about that, right? We got it. Now we're asking teachers to test the kids. We're asking the education system to turn into a medical facility, all because, and I'll get on my soapbox. Excuse me, Chad. All because the profit mongers need to make some more profits. You can't get the workers back in the job to create your profit if they have to deal with childcare. So open these dang schools back up so we can get the kid back into school. Now we're turning them into healthcare workers.
It's insane. The whole mask thing is just another world. But I always come back to the idea, like, if wearing a mask could save just one life, I mean, why wouldn't you at least try? There's 2.5 hour movies about one murder, like where there's one death, and everything is focused on it. But if you could save just one person by wearing a mask, I don't understand why
you can't do that. Why you got to be bugged out? Or because some orange fool told you not to? I mean, an orange fool with piss yellow hair. I said it. Damn, I'm sorry.
You said it.
I did. My bad. I'm gonna reel it back in because we got kids watching. Another big topic that we've got to talk about, infrastructure, right? Eventually, former Mayor Pete is going to be administering some of those dollars to Indiana. How would you like to see those dollars being used to improve Indiana's infrastructure?
Well, I mean, there's already especially in my district, there's already that regional economic acceleration and what is it, development initiative ready. Like I say, it's we got you have to put up your own part of the money and then they'll support you. So like we've got a grant for $49.5 million to help us with the $378 million project, and it's it's for housing and training and innovation. So we've got the ideas of how to improve the community, and we just need to get stuff like that passed through.
But what areas of the infrastructure would you like to see worked on?
Oh, well, all of it.
Because all of it needs it, right?
Yeah, all of it needs it. But safety is my number one concern. I guess I don't want any bridges falling down or potholes in the road, or that's not safe. And but you have to build up the community in a way that makes it where everybody feels that that's what they want to work. You kind of sometimes you'll find these projects and then nobody cares that there's an extra road there, but somebody had to come up with that idea somewhere. So
absolutely, and I tell you what, we talked about earlier how over 40 of these counties have a net negative population growth. One way to get people to stay in these communities is if we had high-speed internet that reached all these places. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, broadband. We need to have that. It's everywhere we can go. That's a build back better. You know what I mean? It's the fourth B, I guess. But I was talking. Another guy at one of the small town Democratic things was, he's a farmer. He was talking about how these farmers out in rural, they basically have these machines now that can basically run themselves, but they don't have the broadband. They don't have internet to do it. They don't have internet to collect the data. And you've got all these people at home trying to educate their kids and do all this, and they don't have broadband. I think it should be like a basic utility.
Yeah, yeah. One of the things, another thing. Okay, switch subjects again. One of the things that these are all the topics that are always going to come up, especially if you find yourself in a debate or something of that nature. One of the other things that we're hearing a lot of is that workers are lazy. People want to call workers lazy, but workers are having to go into unsafe work environments. They're literally putting their lives at risk. We saw during the tornado down in Kentucky where they basically were threatened if they left, but the building came tumbling down and people died. One of the ways to combat poor working conditions, poor working environments is collective bargaining. Talk about your how you see Indiana could be better if we increase participation in unions.
Yeah, I mean we got to find ways to stop companies from punishing people that come up with the ideas for collective bargaining and unions, or people that want to have a vote. You shouldn't be kind of any reprimanding or anything of that for that. I think that it just needs to be where they're able to communicate with unions and find out the ideas and see if they, as an actual idea, to see if they actually want to do it. Like so many companies are against it that you don't even get the chance to listen to, unions and their ideas. And it's one of those things that I don't know if it's right wing media or how it came but they've managed to tell that tale that unions are expensive and they don't get you anything, and they've bought it hook, line, and sinker. Like I don't know how many people that would benefit greatly from unions are sitting there trashing unions, and like it's because you don't know what it is, and I just if you had an opportunity to listen.
Absolutely, I agree because people. I mean, we keep saying that people are voting against their interests, but they've been made to believe the hype or the nonsense that's coming out of these people's mouths, and it's kind of hard. I remember in 2016 when I ran, I had a chance to go speak at a union hall, and it was so discouraging to me to see how many Trump signs and all that other nonsense was on the vehicles in the parking lot at a union hall when the union and our party were synonymous with each other. The Republicans had the big businesses. They were doing their thing with the businesses, and the Democratic Party was doing the things with the unions. It was a balance. It was now the union people done messed around and sided with the people that try to keep them broke.
Right. Yeah. The whole idea of voting against your own interests is another thing that it completely baffles me. Really, I don't. It's one of those things like I don't have an answer, so I just don't understand it.
Well, and they're doing everything they can to reduce the number of people who can actually cast a vote of eligible voters. There's a lot of discussion lately about voting rights and things like that. Indiana's not the best either, but
it's not. Yeah.
We could do a whole lot better in encouraging people to exercise their right to vote and not making it so difficult for people to vote. I personally, I don't know why voting day can't be a holiday, and if you are not working in a location where you have to be at the job, why can't you just have the damn day off? Everybody shut down. You shut down on Christmas. We treat it like Christmas.
Yeah, nobody was there. Yeah.
Or 4th of July. You know what I'm saying? We treat it like one of those other holidays, and people who do have to work, they get better yet, at hospitals, since we do it, especially in Marion County, since we do vote centers, why not put a vote center in a hospital? That way the people that come to work can vote.
Right. Well, I always say, we celebrate our Independence Day. We take that day off with fireworks. We celebrate the veterans and the, Memorial Day. We celebrate all these things. We take the day off to celebrate our freedom and our right to vote and our right to have a voice. And then on the day that you have to cast that vote and have that voice, you got to go to work. It's ridiculous.
I like that point, man. I like that. We celebrate all the things that we do for our liberty, but the thing that we actually get to do, good luck.
Yeah, we need you here.
I like that point. There's a very good point. There's so many issues. We could talk about climate change. I have a hard time articulating all of my stances on climate change. I know it's real. I mean, it was 60 degrees on Christmas.
Right.
you
record highs.
It was crazy. You cannot tell me that there's no climate change. I've been on this planet for 51 and a half years. 51 and a half years. And it's just up to recently that, it's consistently warm on Christmas. Or it's consistently colder later in spring.
Right. It's like I don't know, we lose that quarter of a day every year or whatever. I think all the seasons have finally we're about 3 months behind, I think.
Absolutely. I mean, it's just so much. So,
Indiana is terrible in, it's the worst in, releasing toxins, and, it's a toxic environment. And, so we're always pro-business, but we don't really care about what the businesses do and how they're polluting our environment. And, I think that there's a lot of opportunities for more, like wind energy and, even nuclear energy. I mean, nuclear energy is it's safe as it can be, so.
Except for the waste. See, I get the argument on nuclear because it doesn't have any emissions, but I'm always troubled with, because I can never get a clear answer on what do you do with the waste. Because it generates so much toxic waste. That's just me. I mean, everybody has a thing, but wind and solar are pretty clean and don't have any waste. Nuclear is clean, but it's waste.
Yeah.
And you gonna put it in the ground?
You gotta put it in the ground. That's what you gotta do.
Yeah, I'm sure rural Indiana would love to start planting corn on top of nuclear waste.
Right. Or we send in Nevada or someplace like that.
Right. But see, in Nevada, in southern Nevada, Arizona, just put up a solar farm.
Right, exactly.
You know what I'm saying? You can
all
power,
it is, sun.
So you can power half the country, put a solar farm. In the desert, ain't nobody out there hanging out. Put a damn solar farm out there.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Okay, so here, it's election night. You won. You win in November, and January 2023 is your first day in the State House. Talk about that first piece of legislation that you were either writing with someone or co-sponsoring, or talk about that first piece of legislation.
First piece of legislation, without a doubt, for me is about getting more rehabilitation centers for addiction in the rural areas, and getting money pumped in there, get them some grants, give them opportunities to send people and educate them on how to help. And I think that the whole mental health system is try to do something to get rid of the stigma behind addiction and mental health. If nothing else, other than proclaiming. The state proclaims addiction as a disease. You know what I mean, and kind of go from there. So.
I think you're absolutely right. Mental health is an issue. Addiction is a constant issue, and I think sometimes the stigma is yes, there's a stigma, but the stigma also means that we try to hide people, or we try to pretend like they don't exist, like systemic racism. Did I say that? I did.
You did.
I mean,
you're racist. Jim Lucas. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, right. I mean, and I mean, and then we don't want to talk about it. We want to toss them to the side, and then when they're hopeless, and the suicide rates are up, we don't want to deal with it.
Yeah, it's people think it's an embarrassment. There's just so much. I always say, like, we spend all this money on our body, going to the doctor, and healthcare is all about keeping our body, and then our most important part is our mind, but we're just like, oh no, you got to take care of that part yourself. Get help on that. And it's like, what? This is my brain we're talking about, and I've got some issues. Can I go talk to somebody? And it's like, no, you don't need medicine. You don't need help. And it's like, why? Why has it got to be that way?
Well, and in some cases, like the mental health issue or the mental concern has been put on by the government. It's brought about by people going and serving in our military honorably, and then seeing and experiencing events that cause trauma. And we're not dealing with that. We're not dealing with our veterans like we should. We're not dealing with veteran health care, mental health care like we should. And honestly, enough with doping people up. I mean, I've heard too much about how medicinal marijuana helps with anxiety, helps with PTSD, helps with so many things, but we don't want to legalize that.
Right. It's like we've got the solution, and you just don't want to accept it.
No,
I mean,
because you can grow it yourself.
right.
You know.
I just don't understand, what the um, fuss is about not having. We should just legalize it. It should be like anything else. It should be like beer, just like anything else. So.
Exactly. I mean.
Plus, and then you don't have to tell the government how many cans of beer you have at your house, or you don't have to keep track of that. So I mean, just make it legal, like really legal.
I love it. I like that stance. Make it legal. If that's your thing, do your thing. Like I don't drink beer, but that don't mean I should stop you from drinking beer.
Right. You go drink your beer.
Go drink your beer. Smoke your
weed. Take
the
edge off. Please take the edge off.
And but along with that legalizing marijuana, the thing is like even if they legalize it, they are gonna have to deal with organizations that because some of them are still gonna test. Some of them still. So how do you deal with that?
Right.
But because you can't go to work drunk, right? You can't go to work drunk. You can drink. Drinking is legal, but you can't show up to work drunk. So there's, I think it's time that they work that out. They ought to look at what Colorado is doing. By the way, Michigan, Illinois, Kentucky, and Ohio all have legalized marijuana.
Yeah,
that's money leaving the state.
Yeah, us in Utah, we're gonna be the last ones probably.
I don't know, Indiana. They don't call us.
Well, I mean, we're last in everything. So I mean, it's just we take these opportunities. They're the golden opportunities. I mean, we're a farming state. Why don't we grow some marijuana?
Instead of shipping our money out to other places. I'm surprised these damn Republicans haven't, made it illegal for you to grow tomatoes in your backyard.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Oh, no. Heinz ketchup is not going to be able to make their profit if you are growing tomatoes in your backyard. And that's essentially what's happening, right?
Yeah. I'm going to go to Arkansas and get my tomatoes.
You can't grow marijuana in your backyard because you're going to cut into my pharmaceutical profits.
Right, exactly.
It's crazy.
Any issue like that, you always come back and it's always about the money. It's always about money.
It's always about the money.
It feels like everything, but yeah.
Okay, so tell the people about any events or fundraisers that you have coming up.
We're gonna have a kickoff event in Jackson County down in Seymour, but I'm on out of town right now, so we're still lining that up. But hopefully, gonna start doing some door to door, and everything will be on my website.
Warm enough.
For sure. Yeah, exactly. Go out in my shorts.
That's good. And tell the people where they can find you.
HarmonForIndiana.com. Spell it out. Harmon, HARMONFOR Indiana.com. And you can find all my information and donate if you the one thing about this that I don't like is the asking for money part. So, but it is I got to get my message out there. So
absolutely, and unfortunately, money is a part of politics. And listen, if you guys liked his message tonight, I always put a link. I always put their donate link on the Facebook Live feed. All you got to do is click on it right now. If you liked his conversation and what he's talking about and how he can represent his community and represent Indiana as a whole, click on that link. Give him $5, $10. That's all you got to do. Just give him $5 or $10. All of that money will add up. So if you like what he's talking about, consider donating. It's right there. I always make it easy for the people. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
I'm glad you had a chance to talk to the people. You are the last show of the year. You closed it out. You know what I'm saying? You got that sandwich Thursday in between Christmas and New Year's. You did that.
Exactly.
You did that.
Nobody knows what to do this week in their life, so
that's it.
It's still podcast.
They might as well watch us.
Yeah, exactly.
Indiana's own Dana Black, turn left. Listen, I'm always going to be bringing you candidates all year long, just like this. On some shows, when we start to get the filings, I'm going to double book people so that you can get more information. We still have a lot of people who haven't filed yet. The filing deadline is not until February, so know that. Now, I remember a couple months ago, I made a mistake. I misspoke and said that PCs aren't up until 23. That is not true. You can run for precinct committee person in 2022. So we always talk about, how do I get involved? How can I have a say in some of the things that are going on, especially in Marion County and in Lake County, where they do the slating and all that other stuff. How do I get involved? How do I have a say in what's happening? Run for and become a precinct committee person. It's not just about party politics, but it is about party politics because the party are the people, that we have elected to office who are going to be writing legislation that impacts us. It's all connected. So consider running for precinct committee person. Go to the Indiana Democratic Party state website. They have a calendar of due dates and all that other good stuff. Also visit your the Secretary of State site, the elections division. You can get all the dates that you need on when the deadlines are. There are deadlines. You don't meet the deadline, you don't get to run. You don't get your name on the ballot. And I think everybody should make it a point, right? Make it a point. Make it a conscious effort to figure out how you can be more effective and impactful in your community, like my man Chad is doing, right? He said, I see things in my community. I don't like them. And actually, if you listen to him, all the issues he talked about were real personal. The human issue, the person who is addicted and homeless on the street. You don't get no more personal than that. We need people in our state house that care about people, not just the bottom line, not just we need to send our kids back to school so we can get the mamas and daddies back in these factories. I mean, we got to get things done the right way. It has got to be a nice balance. He talked about small businesses, so it's not like he's looking at the whole thing. So, and he's got to be better, a whole lot of better than the knucklehead. Dana, be nice. Some people, yeah. I'm a woosah. Yeah. I'm a woosah on that one because he's special. He needs to sit down somewhere and take several seats in the back of the room, because he does not represent Indiana, and he does not represent who we are as a people in the state of Indiana, and he's bad. And so we have an opportunity to change that. All right, y'all. This is my last thought that I'm going to share with you for 2021 as we turn the calendar into 2022. We're still arguing over truth and facts. And we recognize that some aspects of our history have been denied to our young students. And I've listened to people from Unified Carmel and Purple for Indiana and all these clowns talking about how these schools are indoctrinating our kids into believing that America was founded on racism. I don't know how you can say it wasn't when if the indigenous people that were here were exterminated, and then the Africans you brought over you enslaved. And don't talk to me about no stupid Irish people being indentured servants, because you know it wasn't the same. But here's the deal. If you are saying that teaching these things is indoctrinating kids, then not teaching them is indoctrinating kids too. Because if you're not telling the truth, then you are basically whitewashing it with propaganda. And you are indoctrinating kids. Nobody is teaching this stuff in school anyway. We're just teaching the facts and the figures. And we're putting some context to it. But what I love about it all is the more that they complain about CRT, the more a new nugget of history gets exposed. And you can't turn off the internet. You can't turn off YouTube. You can't eliminate the library, because all this knowledge now is at the click of a button. So keep on screaming about CRT. Keep on yelling about it. Keep on. Because the more you talk about what you don't want, the more we're going to find out what that is. And as far as y'all attacking trans youth and LGBTQ plus youth, shame on you. Shame on you. They're kids. You're demonizing and vilifying kids. You don't care about all kids. You just care about your kids. So my parting shot, as we begin to turn the calendar, I want us to be vigilant about letting people live their lives. Let people be who they are. As long as they're not infringing on your rights, let them do what they do. See, what do I mean by infringing on your rights? If you are unvaccinated and you do not wear a mask, you're infringing on my right to not get sick. Let's be clear. That's infringing on my rights. But if I choose to be a woman who wants to wear a tie, leave me alone. If a 12-year-old little girl has decided that she wants to be a gender bender, a gender non-conforming, and dress like a dude, dress in typical men's clothing, let her do it. If she doesn't feel something inside of her body, how dare you tell her how she's supposed to feel? How do you know what she feels? Let people be. And I bet you we will stop some of this nonsense, because we're going to let people just live and be who they are and just accept them for who they are. You ain't got to like them. Just let them be. Stop trying to control people. Stop trying to make people be like you, think like you, pray like you, live like you. Stop it. All right, y'all. Indiana's all day. I'm like, turn left. I bid 2021 a fine farewell, and I welcome 2022 with all the gusto you can bring, baby. Indiana's all day. I'm like, turn left. We will be back all next year with all the great candidates. I'll holler at you next week. Peace.